Hello again, and welcome to Year 5 of the Religious Education Initiative. This is day 1, so this reading and reflection does mark the beginning of the 5th year of the REI. So, as a summary of how this works, each week we will provide 3 readings for the parish or for anyone that's using these readings. Everyone is urged to participate. Families should participate together. Reading the selections on Monday and Wednesday and Friday, or on 3 other days and times, whatever works best for the family. We do these readings as well, of course, at the parish Bible study, but this is how we recommend implementing it in the home. So anyone can take the lead. We do recommend that the father and mother in each household do so to start with at the very least, and then they can delegate to the children as time goes on. Whoever takes the lead, we strongly recommend that each household take this opportunity to make it a priority to do these readings and reflections as an entire and whole family, all together. Also, since fathers often get left out of religious matters in the home because of their other responsibilities and obligations outside of the home, at least that's the traditional norm, and it seems to persist even into the modern day. Wherever possible, it is best if the father takes the lead in these readings, either reading the selection and guiding the discussion himself, or delegating the reading to someone else. So, as we begin the church year and our 5th year of the Religious Education Initiative, we will start with another selection from the book of Proverbs. So at this point in the book of Proverbs, we are simply reading through a collection of wise sayings of Solomon. In all of these, the general theme is the contrast between what the church has often referred to as the way of death versus the way of life. We pray that these reminders will remind us all of the sacred responsibilities placed in our hands, and that we will run with patience and faithfulness the race that is set before us, not just this year, but over our entire lives. So, note as well that this is a longer selection, 2 full chapters of the book of Proverbs, that may be appropriate for families with older children or for a husband and wife just together, but families with younger children may certainly consider reading only a portion of the following as seems appropriate to the parents. If you read the entire selection, it ought to take, as an estimate, a little over 6 to 8 minutes, but we'll see how long it takes me. So you can feel free to adjust accordingly. I find that 3 to 4 minutes is a good reading length for young children. Now, a simple way to shorten the selection is to read only one of the 2 chapters. Reading them in advance yourself will let you see which chapter contains more relevant or helpful proverbs for your household at present. I have a slight bias myself towards the first, but let's see how it sounds. So this is chapter 24 of Proverbs. Be not envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them, for their minds devise violence, and their lips talk of mischief. By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. A wise man is mightier than a strong man, and a man of knowledge than he who has strength. For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory. Wisdom is too high for a fool. In the gate he does not open his mouth. He who plans to do evil will be called a mischief maker. The devising of folly is sin, and the scoffer is an abomination to men. If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Rescue those who are being taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. If you say, Behold, we did not know this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who keeps watch over your soul know it? And will he not requite man according to his work? My son, eat honey, for it is good, and the drippings of the honeycomb are sweet to your taste. Know that wisdom is such to your soul. If you find it, there will be a future, and your hope will not be cut off. Lie not in wait as a wicked man against the dwelling of the righteous. Do not violence to his home, for a righteous man falls 7 times and rises again, but the wicked are overthrown by calamity. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and let not your heart be glad when he stumbles, lest the Lord see it, and be displeased, and turn away his anger from him. Fret not yourselves because of evildoers, and do not be envious of the wicked, for the evil man has no future. The lamp of the wicked will be put out. My son, fear the Lord and the king, and do not disobey either of them, for disaster from them will rise suddenly, and who knows the ruin that will come from them both. These also are sayings of the wise. Partiality in judging is not good. He who says to the wicked, "You are innocent," will be cursed by peoples, abhorred by nations. But those who rebuke the wicked will have delight, and a good blessing will be upon them. He who gives a right answer kisses the lips. Prepare your work outside, get everything ready for you in the field, and after that build your house. Be not a witness against your neighbor without cause, and do not deceive with your lips. Do not say, "I will do to him as he has done to me. I will pay the man back for what he has done." I passed by the field of a sluggard, by the vineyard of a man without sense, and lo, it was all overgrown with thorns, the ground was covered with nettles, and its stone wall was broken down. Then I saw and considered it, I looked and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. And then on to chapter 25. These also are Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah king of Judah copied. It is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings is to search things out. As the heavens for height and the earth for depth, so the mind of kings is unsearchable. To take away the dross from the silver, and the smith has material for a vessel. Take away the wicked from the presence of the king, and his throne will be established in righteousness. Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence, or stand in the place of the great, for it is better to be told, "Come up here," than to be put lower in the presence of the prince. What your eyes have seen, do not hastily bring into court, for what will you do in the end when your neighbor puts you to shame? Argue your case with your neighbor himself, and do not disclose another's secret, lest he who hears you bring shame upon you, and your ill repute have no end. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. Like a gold ring or an ornament of gold is a wise reprover to a listening ear. Like the cold of snow in the time of harvest is a faithful messenger to those who send him. He refreshes the spirit of his masters. Like clouds and wind without rain is a man who boasts of a gift he does not give. With patience a ruler may be persuaded, and a soft tongue will break a bone. If you have found honey, eat only enough for you, lest you be sated with it and vomit it. Let your foot be seldom in your neighbor's house, lest he become weary of you and hate you. A man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a war club, or a sword, or a sharp arrow. Trust in a faithless man in time of trouble is like a bad tooth, or a foot that slips. He who sings songs to a heavy heart is like one who takes off a garment on a cold day, and like vinegar on a wound. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For you will heap coals of fire on his head, and the Lord will reward you. The north wind brings forth rain, and a backbiting tongue angry looks. It is better to live in a corner of the housetop than in a house shared with a contentious woman. Like cold water to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country. Like a muddied spring or a polluted fountain is a righteous man who gives way before the wicked. It is not good to eat much honey, so be sparing of complimentary words. A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. All right. So that was about 5 minutes to read. So if you do half of that, then it should be 2.5, 3 minutes, and that's reasonable. So we could talk about any number of these things, but I wanted to, the bits about the result of sloth being that everything falls apart, and you can see that in a home. If a home is inhabited by someone who doesn't care for it, then everything gets overgrown and falls down. And the same is the case for the soul. The advice for how to interact with your enemies, to be merciful to them, to perhaps even make them no longer be your enemies. Anyway, so on and so forth. There are many of these things. But I want to talk about what I think is a critical spiritual insight that we see here in the first chapter we read, which is to say in chapter 24, verse 10, where it says, "If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Rescue those who are being taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. If you say, 'Behold, we didn't know this,' does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who keeps watch over your soul know it? And will he not requite man according to his work?" We could read these as all separate, but I think these go together. The point being, if we find that when life is hard, we faint, that tells us that our strength is small, right? And then when he says rescue those who are being taken away to death, we ought to take this, I think, as as a statement, when we recognize in ourselves that we are getting weary quickly, that we give in immediately to temptation, that we fall down when life is difficult, this is there's something we should do about that, and that is to say, we should rescue our own soul when it is being taken away to death, when it is stumbling to the slaughter, in advance, by preparing ourselves, by building ourselves up for the temptation that is to come. Which is to say, if we apply this directly to the spiritual life, if we are in the habit of giving in to every desire that comes, I want some food, well, I'll eat as much as I want. I'm bored, I'm going to watch some television. If we habituate ourselves to give in, to follow the guidance of our passions, of our desires, then when greater temptations come, we will find that we are utterly incapable of standing against them, even if we agree and believe that they are bad for us. Whereas, if we limit ourselves only to what we need, only to what is truly essential for life and for peace, food and clothing and shelter, then we are not feeding the desires. We are building up for ourselves strength so that when true adversity comes, we are prepared to face it. So that is, I think, one reading here, and this would be why it connects, that he who watches over the soul knows us. The Lord will see in us when the time comes for judgment. Did we prepare for the temptations and trials that are certainly going to come to us, even if simply only as we age and grow weary and sick? Did we prepare ourselves to turn to the Lord, to seek his face, to walk in faithfulness? Or did we abandon ourselves to every desire so that when troubles come, we are not prepared? This is, I think, the warning that is given. Anyway, that's perhaps enough said. Proverbs is interesting. We only read it these 3 times each year, but it's a valuable thing to reflect on. So anyway, that's it for today. God bless you all. We'll see you shortly for day 2.